Hail, hail, the Celtics are here, and what the hell do we care now? It's the Champions League, McBride, and we're on the cusp of it. It's tomorrow night, and we're here for the Sorare CSC. Good to see you, my man. How are you?
Hail, hail. Good, yeah. Unusual to be on the Monday night, but get some engagements tomorrow night in Rotterdam, haven't we? So, yeah, excited. So, always good. Kind of first week of the Champions League and everything as well. You got Champions League tune, the excitement and everything. So yeah, let's hope for a good performance and keep that going. But yeah, I'm excited to see us playing at the top level.
Aye, it's going to be good. And we've previewed the group, we've had a good look around, and we've kind of chewed this one over anyway, and it feels like we're on, it's the Christmas Eve of the Champions League for us, and we see the Feyenoord games very clearly as being the two games that are going to really decide the success, probably, most likely, of the campaign itself. So starting away, and I'm pretty sure they call it the Keep, their stadium, which is a modern day Celtic Park and if you look at their home record in European football, they are pretty credible, to say the least. So it's going to be a real difficult test, but it's one I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one if you're on Sorare as well, because the top Dutch teams are always pretty competitive as well, and as Michael. But we're not getting slagged for being late tonight. I think Feyenoord's a really interesting one. A really interesting one. A top Dutch team, so a team that scores really well and so rare, and it's going to be a really tough test. But at the end of the day, that's the 2-2 victory. That's what it's all about, the Champions League. Even if you're not playing the Real Madrids, Man Cities, all that type of stuff, you're playing against teams that are absolutely chock full of quality. So I'm looking forward to seeing it, and I actually do have a few Feyenoord players as well, so that's going to be an interesting selection in terms of the Sorare teams. But I haven't picked them yet. I'm still in kind of weekend mode and everything at the moment, to be honest, after the result against Dundee as well. So
yeah. I think, we've had good exposure to the Feyenoord kind of rise that they've had over the last 2 or 3 seasons, that they've been really credible in European competition, getting to semi-finals and finals and doing all that kind of stuff. So it is going to be good to see us versus them in a few different contexts, because they have been pretty good, and they've been churning out players that they've been selling for lots of money, So how do we stack up against them? They have sold these players, they haven't just replaced them out of thin air all of a sudden either. So, it's definitely a game that's there for the taking, I would suggest. Arne Slot is, of course, quite a proven manager, turned down Tottenham, apparently, amongst some, or was it Man United, or I can't remember, but he's been some places.
He's definitely in the Spurs, yeah.
Is it Spurs?
Yeah.
He's definitely a credible guy, definitely a good manager and a capable opponent, so we're definitely not taking this game lightly, but it's definitely a game I feel that we can get something out of. And I think probably before we can fully look forward, we need to get a wee bit of context up to speed on the CSC and have a wee look at the 3-0 victory we had at the weekend at home to Dundee. So I went out into left field, which is a bit of an incorrect pun, and I thought Forrest might have got some minutes. Didn't even feature in this game. I thought he might have even started. I just don't think Yang had done enough to say Abad is out or Yang is his spot. So I thought maybe this is a chance for Forrest to maybe get some minutes. Unless it wasn't for him, of course, it was for Yang. I don't think he'd done enough equally in this game as well. Just as a little side note, in terms of the predictions, McBride, I think you were probably spot on.
I did. I think I said 3 actually, so that's good, and it's good to see clean sheets and things there as well, because there was a point where we were looking a bit susceptible to conceding stupid goals and all that type of stuff as well. So yeah, and I think on Play Sharper on the predictions, I was 10 out of 11. The one I got wrong was Turnbull and Hatate, although I think I only had Hatate at 60% or something as well. So, but I think you look at the game, Rio's done I think 35 or whatever. So, coming on for the bench, he's actually played pretty well. And interestingly, I don't know what those scores are based on. I don't know what his base card is. Probably midfield now. But I've got the forward card, and it actually scored higher than that. So I think he was pretty good from an offensive point of view, which was good when he came on. Personal team, Alistair Johnson with a big chance missed at the end. That buggered me up a bit, because that would have been a huge score. You'll see he's got a big two. Hit the post, didn't he? So, that was a shame, but quality player. and good to have him back, getting away for these European assignments as well. Because one thing you'll notice with all the top teams is they've always got loads of quality in the wide areas and all that sort of stuff as well. So I think having Johnson back's a huge plus point there as well.
Yeah, he was really impressive at the weekend, and he was definitely unlucky to score with a few of his attempts when he broke into the box, and it sounds like he's maybe going to reserve his attacking prowess, if you heard all the post-match stuff. He loves an interview. But I was just noticing there, Lagerbielke picked up a 60 off the bench, 35 points. He did look way better than he did against the last match. Was it St Johnstone or whatever?
Yeah.
Or even the Derby match, I suppose. He looked infinitely better. Very cool, calm and composed. He looked like a foot taller as well. I don't know if I'll be calling him medium-sized Gus if he keeps playing like this, but it was brilliant when he came on second half. I thought he was really good.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be one of the main selection points as well, isn't it? So Phillips come off at half-time. I think Roger's comments were he's not like injured, but it was more precautionary, and he hoped to have him available for Tuesday. So we need a bit of a mixed first half, but then Celtic played better overall in the second half, didn't they? I mean, it's just had a better sort of game in the second half, and Scales was good again. I mean, stats-wise, he was good. I find it hard to see why you would want to drop him at the moment, unless it was Vickers coming back in, which would be a no-brainer based in quality. But you have to hand it to him. I mean, he's played at Ibrox, and he was man of the match at Ibrox. I think he was official man of the match at Ibrox.
Yeah.
And he's put in another good all-round performance at the weekend as well. So yeah, I think the overall performance after maybe just sort of starting a wee bit to get the early goal in the first half and everything, but we finished off the game really well, and see the scores. Riley, McGregor, Turnbull got a goal. Probably didn't play that well all around. Furuhashi goal and assist. Yang was probably the main disappointment in terms of sort of end product and stuff there. So
this guy Beck had his number, didn't he?
Aye, really did look like it. I mean, that's
7 tackles, one.
That's an outrageous score at Parkhead, by the way. If that was like Guardiola or whatever coming, you would be raving about how good a performance the guy put in at Parkhead or whatever. I know it's not a Champions League night, but that's a really impressive performance. But I think from Yang's point of view, at Celtic, he's going to be expected to try and beat guys like that, or if you don't get many chances, maybe have a wee bit more quality on the end of some of the chances. I think when he cut in his left foot, he hit the side net and all that type of stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's somebody who didn't start against Feyenoord tomorrow night, because I don't think you can carry a performance like that in an away game. But that's more into the discussion of how the team will line up for the next game, not how that game went. Palmer looked quite lively as well.
And when he came on, we seen him go left and Dyson switch over to the right, which saddens me from a Dyson point of view. But hey, Dyson's done that job when Jota was in town, so maybe that's not a bad move. Maybe we see Palmer come in, because he looked kind of A-okay. He looked comfortable in the squad, and you've got Yang for impact. He definitely gives you pace. He definitely gives you step overs, and he'll do guys on the turn. But like we've seen against Dundee, like he couldn't get by the Dundee left back. So, I'm not going to hold my breath that he's going to do that against Hartman and Hanko and Gertruida and these guys.
Well, I see Fergus has said that Taylor and Scales will get targeted for being in the small side. Like, I don't think against Feyenoord. I mean, Feyenoord are a really technical team, so we've been talking about Celtic a lot. So two things are Gimenez is suspended and Ueda's out. So what that means is that's their two recognised sort of forwards. So it looks like they're probably going to go. Paxal usually plays like left wing. He's going to go through the centre. Ivanisek's just been signed for about 13, 14 million or whatever. He's playing for Croatia. Really good player. Minte is a guy that people will not really know that much, but I think Brighton or Newcastle, or it might be Newcastle, like bought him and then sent him on loan to Feyenoord. So he's a talent. And then I think there's a few things to point out here. Firstly, their main goalkeeper's out as well. So you've got no Bijlo. So, there are some kind of obvious issues if we can try and get Feyenoord. There's no recognised centre forward, so maybe if we can frustrate them a wee bit. But I think from a sort of Sorare point of view, like the most impressive points of their team are probably the centre of the midfield. Weifer and Quinton Timber are really good. They're kind of two guys where you think if somebody says that Celtic were signing them, I'd be quite excited, you know. Timber's probably more get the legs to be a bit more box to box, and then Stings probably in that system probably plays a wee bit more like maybe like the Matt O'Reilly. So it lines up like that. That's going to be a tough technical team to play against, because although they don't have like, you know, the Gimenez, the guy who finishes the chances, Paxal, Ivanisevic, Stings. You even see Weifer coming up with goals, you know, so they've been scoring goals for fun. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I think there's a clean sheet chance there's 16%. So, you know, it's going to be a tough game to keep them out, unfortunately. But you just never know. If you frustrate them and we get at them in a certain way, then, you know, they don't have their first choice goalkeeper in, and you just never know. But they're a top team.
Yeah.
They're a really good team. I know we're here to talk about Celtic, but it's a tough test. It's going to be a hard one. But we thought that Ibrox, albeit I think Feyenoord, sorry Rangers fans, Feyenoord are a step up from Rangers, and you've seen that because Feyenoord finished above PSV and PSV absolutely destroyed Rangers. So, you know, let's not kid on ourselves because we went to Ibrox and we won that we're going to be like performing similar levels in European away games. This is going to be tough, but really looking forward to seeing both of the teams. To be honest, it'll be a good game, I think.
Yeah, I definitely, you know, it's one of these things. Like one of the main criticisms I hear, like from Sorare managers that have Feyenoord cards, is the relentless nature that they attack, which, you know, is fair enough. But they're missing a few attackers, like you've mentioned, and that being a negative is because they leave themselves open. And if they have that in their makeup, then we're going to get chances in this game. There's no two ways about it. And I think any Celtic fan, like, you know, listen, we need to be realistic. We can't be going there saying we're going to do anything right. We have to be reserved about it all. But we have the capability to score goals in this match. And then, it can be a case of who scores more. And, you know, that's a game that I don't mind trying to win.
Yeah, I mean, the other huge positive is just see Hatate in the pitch. I mean, I know we've been doing a lot of David Turnbull bashing and all that type of stuff, and I think he's largely good enough for the Scottish League, but I really want to see Hatate in there, honestly, because when you're playing the European away game and you're under pressure, you've got to be able to give the ball to somebody, and you've got to be able to retain and progress possession. So you want to get into the game, and for that point of view, when McGregor gets the ball, or if O'Reilly maybe plays a wee bit deeper, you got to give the ball to somebody that can look after the ball and get you up the pitch and start bringing Furuhashi and Maeda into the game. So, you know, I really hope Hatate starts, and I hope when he does that Turnbull's coming in for him as more of a rotation piece rather than the other way around. Because I've said it before, I just think he's our best midfielder, you know, which is high praise because Matt O'Reilly's been absolutely brilliant this season. There's no two ways about it. He's been like probably one of our best players, I would have said, overall. But let's see what Frank's saying. People keep saying about we're playing skills at centre back, but you know the guy's playing all right. You know, give him a chance. You know. Everybody's kind of got that thing in their head, it's Liam Scales and all that sort of stuff. But I remember last season when we were playing for Aberdeen. Aberdeen were in that insane run where they'd like 9 clean sheets in 12 games or something. And he was part of that. And they beat Rangers 2-0 at home, and they kept a clean sheet and all that sort of stuff. So I'm not saying Liam Scales is a long-term answer or whatever, but he's been playing well. So let's get behind him. You know, we don't really have much choice tomorrow, especially if Phillips maybe carrying an injury. So, you know, and I just don't think he'll drop Scales. Like, what would be the reason to drop him? You know, he's playing well. He's won at Ibrox on our clean sheet the weekend. His stats are good. Like, you know, what would be the
balls
reason?
He was playing as well against Dundee. He only needs one of them to work out tomorrow night, and we'll be calling him a master. Yeah, I think he's looked great, honestly. As you know, I've been a Scales fan for a while. It's great to see that he's taking this opportunity because the step up from Aberdeen to Celtic first team is huge. And, he's taking the chance with both hands. But I think that it's between him and Navrachi when he's fit. That's the way Rodgers sees it. He's the second choice left centre-back at the moment first, because Navrachi isn't available. But when Navrachi comes back, I think that's the fight for the role, if you like. And Scales, I could see him playing for Celtic all season if he keeps this form up, because he's not putting a foot wrong. And Feyenoord will be a good test. We'll see what happens with Lazio and Atleti, because that's them when you're getting to the nosebleed territories of the levels we can push the team to. But tomorrow will be the real, hey, I think we can get a good game out of him, because as much as we pay respect to Feyenoord and they're good and all the rest of it, really there's nothing if you look at David Hanko and Trauner play, there's nothing dramatically, imperiously European quality different to them than to Liam Scales or a Carter Vickers, whatever. It's just that they've actually won matches, they've won knockout ties. That's really the difference. Yeah. And he's only going to get that difference by playing and maybe beating them tomorrow night, getting a wee header.
Yeah. I think the other thing about Scales is there's no Bernabei in the squad, so I think that Scales is a guy you might have to rely on at some point. What happens if Greg Taylor gets injured? So Scales obviously is going to slot in there, isn't he? Otherwise, why would you just leave Bernabei out of the Champions League squad? So that was quite telling as well for Rodgers' sort of selection, and Navrachi completely left out as well. It's probably just mainly down to the length of the injury. If we could maybe get a favourable result in terms of getting a draw or something, obviously we would win. That would be magic. But I think it's a tough ask in terms of the form obviously they're in. But you've got the 2 home games coming up as well, So, what I don't want to see is us going getting scudded 3 or 4 goals or whatever. If we go and put on a good performance, we give ourselves a bit of hope that when we start playing Lazio at home and Atletico at home, that we can get after them and all that type of stuff. I want to see that again. None of this kind of, we're just useless away from home in Europe and everybody hammers us, because, it's the Champions League. See, one thing you look at when you see in the Champions League, that it's quite rare to see a lot of away results in the Champions League. So that the overall quality is so high that there's quite a high home bias. And the issue for Celtic is that Celtic at one point had made Parkhead a fortress. It was the best atmosphere in the world. Everybody was buzzing. We felt we could beat anybody. AC Milan came, they were reigning European champions. Celtic turned them over in their own style. Even beat Barcelona, never get the ball or whatever, and we still beat them. We found a way to win, all that type of stuff. So, if we can just try and stay in these ties away from home, but then focus on getting behind the team, making Parkhead a fortress again, that's what will start getting us into the later stages, because there's hardly any teams that you would expect out with, maybe teams like Man City and the absolute pinnacle teams that you think, they're going to go away from home in the Champions League and win a game. It's not the way it works, and we're conditioned to think we beat everybody because we're playing Scotland and we want to win every week, but that's not the way European football works. So
that mental part of it is a big factor, I think. And I think guys like Furuhashi, Maeda, they don't carry that baggage. You know what I mean? I'm seeing some of the I'm an overly optimistic fan. I think any of our regular viewers of this will be aware of that by now, right? But being a supporter on any part of the scale of optimism and pessimism, these are the games where you've got to have a wee bit of hope that you're going to go out and do it, And I think it's one of those ones where these guys aren't carrying that same kind of burden that, we are thinking about away games in Moscow and away games to, all these other places where we've dropped points and we should have had them over the years, even in Italy and whatever. But these guys don't have that. They're the only baggage Kyogo's got is last year, the chances they missed in rectifying that. For example, Maeda, obviously coming off a good World Cup, he can do high pressure, high stakes games. And I think, if we start with Hatate and we start the game capable of playing the way we played against Dundee, then I think we could have a really good performance for sure.
Yeah. But so I want to make a confession here as well, because Sorare's based on dominant games. Sometimes I get really, really excited about Dundee at home and St Johnstone at home and stuff like that. So that'd be a weird dynamic for people thinking, why would that be the case? But those are the games where obviously you're hoping to win 1-0, or you're hoping to win 4 or 5-0 and all that type of stuff. But back to the actual kind of Celtic selection, you still got to do predictions for Play Sharper as well. But, you know, I wouldn't be surprised to see something a wee bit different from Rodgers. The team, the way the team lined up at Ibrox was a wee bit different from the other games. I wouldn't be surprised if he just said, well, why don't we just play like Maeda and Furu and actually bring in our midfield. I'm not suggesting they should start with Turnbull again, but we're assuming if he brings in Hatate that Turnbull comes out. But maybe it might be a more sort of prudent game to bring in our midfielder for protection, because, you know, Feyenoord are really good going forward. They're really good on the ball. So if you want to go at them sort of and play in our normal style, that might be a bit more difficult. And Celtic play a 4 at the back as well. It's not like play a 5 and they're packing the back line or anything. They're playing a more 4-3-3 type of formation. So I think it's going to line up quite well. But even if you look at Feyenoord, and that prediction is bang on, because Weaver and or Weifer, whatever you call him, and Quinton Timber, and before that was Cockshoe, and they brought in Zaruki as well, who plays in that position. They play with like 2 kind of deep line midfielders, but some of those guys have got the quality to go forward. And even Weifer, he was keeping like Joey Veerman out the Dutch squad, so he's a really good young player, a guy who's got legs to kind of do all the different sort of tasks. So that's I think that's going to be our main. The middle of the park is going to be where the game is sort of won and lost, because it's not going to be an Ibrox where you've got Michael Beale. Maybe it's instructions, maybe it's not, where they think Celtic's vulnerable at the back, and then instead of actually try to play through the midfield, there's balls getting hoofed up. And, you know, Ibrox a lot of the time thought, you know, Rangers midfield wasn't really involved in the game, and the ball was going up. McGregor was getting the ball, Riley was getting the ball, we're playing out, and they were kind of caught out of position and all that type of stuff. Whereas what's going to happen with Feyenoord is they're going to be quite dynamic, and they're all going to be getting on the ball and everything as well. So it might be a game just to kind of say, well, is there any real point having Yang standing out there doing nothing? Maybe we should bring in somebody who could play in a more deep line role. He's not going to play Iwata though, is he? I don't know why he just doesn't give Iwata any minutes. Like, this would be a perfect chance to bring somebody in and maybe play the 2 across. But what he might do is he might play Hatate, O'Reilly and McGregor, and have O'Reilly sitting back a wee bit further like he did at Ibrox, where he was receiving the ball on the edge of the box and composed on the ball and all that sort of stuff, you know. Because you've got to find a way to curb the atmosphere and everything, you know. There's no doubt about it. Like, I don't know if you've seen any of the games at Feyenoord recently, but I watched one of the games in Mola last season, and the atmosphere was absolutely brilliant. It was just a normal league game, and the atmosphere was absolutely brilliant as well. So it's going to be an interesting test. But that's why we're here. And we've got here to play all the top teams for all the different leagues. So
yeah, I think it is sad that we've not seen any kind of plan B. I think the only other kind of time I'm thinking back to midfield shape and whatever, there was like, might have been the Yokohama game, but he started with Odenholm and O'Reilly in midfield with maybe Turnbull as well, if maybe serves me right. So that, you know, there maybe is a wee bit of tactical flexibility that's been coached into them. But yeah, I would be shocked if we've seen any actual system changes coming into this game. The only thing I would want to say on Feyenoord that's kind of, I've not mentioned this point, but we've been big fans for a long time, and he's on really good form now. He's probably the most talented player that will be on the pitch in Feyenoord, and that is Stengs, who's playing in the number 10 position. Made his name as a wide forward attacking winger, and since leaving Holland, he went away to a few places, never really worked out. He's back in Holland with a different team, and he's really like hit the ground running. So he's a guy you might see, and if he does shred a guy, it doesn't. Yeah, he's pretty good. Like, it's all the only thing I'll say. Yeah. If we can keep him quiet, then we're probably onto a good one. And I know Weaver's getting highly scouted and highly rated as well. So there is good talent in the team. Don't get me wrong, but like, I don't think they're miles ahead of us in that sense. No. You know?
I think Odenholm's interesting as well, because, you know, he doesn't traditionally play in more of a wide position, but maybe that's not our tactic, if you know what I mean. Maybe you could play Maeda and Fura a bit more central, and, you know, have Maeda maybe causing havoc in different areas, because, you know, they're quite comfortable in their system where they've got the 2 guys there and the ball's coming out. But you've got to think about how you can beat their tactics as well. So you get 2 guys standing out in the wing, then that might or might not be beneficial. Obviously, if you're worried about coming back, then Maeda can, help out with that. I mean, one thing that really struck me at Ibrox, if you look at James Tavernier doesn't have a card in Sorare, but if you look at his scores, James Tavernier's scores are absolutely huge because he's always getting goals and assists, always getting forwards, always getting the ball in the box, he's scoring all that type of stuff. And his score against Celtic at Ibrox was rotten. And that's how well Maeda played. And people forget stuff like that. People remember Furu scoring the goal, or do they remember Scales getting man of the match? But Maeda played him right out of the game. And whether or not we like him or not, and we know the answer to that, but he's one of the best right backs about in terms of what he actually does in affecting games. Scored 2 goals at Parkhead last season, free kick, back post, all that type of stuff. And Maeda played him right out. So, it's up to Brendan to deploy him correctly. But when you see that there, I just wouldn't be surprised if he just mixes it up a wee bit rather than just leaving Yang out there. I don't know if he's ready for the Champions League. He looks like a talent, but I'm not sure that Yang's ready for this type of away game. If that makes sense.
This is what I was going to say. I think Maeda and Kyogo would walk into that Feyenoord. I think they're the best strikers that are going to be in this game. I think we have the best strikers. The midfield, that'll be an interesting battle. Like you kind of mentioned earlier, like Weaver and Timber against like O'Reilly and McGregor. It's kind of similar kind of styles and shapes and sizes of people,
Yeah.
Their defence is also full strength and they've got a second choice keeper, and we have got like second choice centre backs and kind of first choice everything else. So it will be a really good one. But I'm totally with Frank in this sense that like I won't be having any interesting tests and this is I won't be taking any of that chat before, during, or after the game. This is how we find our level or any of that pish. It's Feyenoord. Like they've been great in the Conference League, but this is the Champions League. We're Celtic and we're in the Champions League too. So this isn't a test to. Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Frank, for sure. This is go out and, like you said before the Derby match, be men. Yeah, go out there and be men in this match. Get the win, make it happen. And I've just got. If anyone wants to see it, they won 6-1 at the weekend with players that might not feature, like Jimenez, and gets maybe some guys to come off the bench. Nope, the boy Minty come off. I do always remember that he's from Newcastle because his name's Minty, and it seems funny. It seems funny that it would be Newcastle because it's mint. That's like their kind of stereotypical pattern. I feel like.
I think the other thing I'd point out here as well is that Gertruda plays at right back, but he plays a bit of centre half as well. I think you might actually see Maeda playing in the right hand side. And I know you said that Maeda doesn't do as well on the right hand side, but Hartman is a guy who's really quick and likes to get forward. So you'll see that game there against Hartman. Hartman. He got 2 assists, and he was getting forward a lot. He had a shot on target, penalty area entries, big chances created, all that type of stuff. So he looked fresh as a belter. So Gertruda is probably more of a Alistair Johnson type style, and Hartman's probably more of a kind of, I don't know, guy like Serginho Dest, that type of guy who's really quick, get forward, sharp, gets involved, linking up with these guys. And Ivanišek is a guy who has only just moved to Feyenoord as well, but we know him quite well from Dynamo Zagreb last season. He was outstanding for them. He's playing for Croatia and everything at the moment, and he's on fire. He's nearly averaging 70 on Sorare, which is really, 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 really high, and he's really adapted well to go and play with them. So yeah, it's a tough test, but it'll be interesting to see, I think, how we actually approach that from a tactical point of view, because it's not a high possession game or whatever. It's a different type of challenge that we're facing, what we're used to in Scotland.
The game starts in 25 hours and 15 minutes.
8:00, isn't it?
Oh, is it quarter? I thought it was 7:45. Is it 8? Okay. Well, 25 and a half hours.
I like what they do with the Champions League now, though, where you get a couple of early games, so you just actually get to command the TV for the full night. Just the Champions League's on, right? Let's just get all that rubbish off. Just try to see what time the game starts at.
I say our kick-off tomorrow is Newcastle AC Milan, so that'll be a nice wee appetizer for us. Get the first couple of cans down you, the first couple of pints, whatever you're watching the game.
That's
get warmed
exciting.
up, and then
see when you look at some of these groups, like I'll just take away from it, but Newcastle, PSG, Dortmund, AC Milan, you know, this is the stuff you want to get involved in. This is what you want to be involved in. And we have the thing is, it's no point too negative. We have actually got one of the better groups that we could have got as well. So, you know, it's quite early in the kind of stage of Rodgers coming back, and we'll get a few key injuries and things, but you just never know. I mean, I think that what we've got to do is do something similar to what we did at Ibrox, where you've got to be aware that the first 15, 20 minutes, you're probably going to be under pressure. And it's a shame Abada's not playing, actually, because I think Abada could have also helped get at them on the counter-attack, you know, because he did that a lot at Ibrox, you know. There's one where he put it over and Kyogo tried to sort of back heel it in or whatever, you know, but he just basically hit them in the counter-attack. So that's a bit of a shame he's not available, but we've still got loads of talent there and loads of guys we can bring in. Jay's going to the game. Enjoy the game, Jay. Make sure you come back, eh?
Yeah. Don't get into trouble.
Yeah, he's going to Amsterdam as well.
No,
so
well, I bet he is.
Definitely going to get into trouble.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So yeah, I'm overall optimistic. I'll be playing to keep it on CSC style. I'm congregating all my Celtic cards into one team, so then I can just enjoy that team with the game, and it's not going to impact anything else that might be kind of going on. I'll show you McBride, see what you think. I'm going after pro with it. I'm going for goals. If we're going to get a goal or two, then hopefully I'm going to get it.
Aberdeen card. I think the interesting thing as well is that I think Furuhashi could score against anybody. So I've not really decided exactly what I'm doing myself, but I'll definitely have one team that's kind of similar to this, and that you know, I would hate myself if Celtic win and sneaked a 1-0 or whatever, and never actually managed to put one in. And I actually picked up scales myself. Actually, I sent you a 1 over. I get the 1 out of 100 scales. So, and people will not know this, but you can't captain the super rare cards. So Matt O'Reilly's probably an actual selection there, because even if you're maybe struggling in the game a wee bit, you know, he's on all the set pieces on the corners, so you get a goal or an assist at some point. And
it's great for winning duels and tackles and that as well. He does everything, O'Reilly.
I think he's really upped his game. He's shown that spell where he was playing, he came in for McGregor and he was having to play more defensive. I think he's shown to be quite a well-rounded midfielder now, because people regard him as the guy who's going forward and taking the set pieces and taking the corners and popping up in the box and missing chances against St Johnstone. But he's shown that he can do loads of stuff. Hatate, I really hope starts. I mean, it would be really nice to see Hatate just stamp himself on a top-class game as well, you know, because we know how good he is, but it'd be quite nice to see him just go there and be the best player in midfield out of both the teams, because he's well capable of doing that. He's capable of just putting on one of those performances where every time the ball goes to him, he just does something with it and people can't get the ball off him and all that type of stuff. So I'm quite excited to see him playing against guys that are, you know, quite high level young players as well. Because that's the thing to remember about Feyenoord too. We think we're going to play against seasoned professionals here. You know, Ivanisic's 24, Weaver's 23, Timber's only about 21, 22, Minty's about 19, Paxal's 23, Harchman's about 22. So I think Hanko, Troner and Wellenroofer are the only guys who are a wee bit older. Even Stengs, I think, is 25 or something. So he's not you know, he's not like a guy who's played in the Champions League like 20, 25 games or whatever. You know, he's a good youngish type player. So yeah, I mean, they've got loads of young talent there. And you look at those scores, and people don't know Sorare. Those green scores like 60 and 66 and everything, that means they're good. So that's their average score, and that's a good average score, because you know, it's quite hard to average high when you're playing over 15, 20, 30 games. But the Celtic score well in Sorare too, and a lot of people just put that down to the fact that Scotland's rubbish. But there we go. Everybody used to say the Scottish national team was rubbish as well, and
now we can't be stopped almost, you know. I think that's a big part of what made the difference to the team under Ange last year. Is, like I've mentioned that a few times on this channel, you know, but seeing us play Real Madrid at home, Shakhtar and Leipzig, like you've seen every player that was involved in those matches get markedly better in the weeks after those games, you know, like individually, the ones that maybe had to push themselves in the match or did come up with a few good moments, even though there wasn't special results or anything that came along that way. And I feel that our squad is quite, some of them, not all of them, obviously, because there is some new faces and some guys missing and whatever. But, you know, there's enough of them out there that I think that will be coming into this and they will be ready to kind of hit the ground running. So, yeah like, I'm, you know, Celtic away, you never get too excited. You always stop yourself before convincing yourself of something incredible. But, I'm looking forward to it all the same because, like I say, a lot of these guys don't have the baggage of, you know, the Martin O'Neill team or the Strachan team or whatever those things were over a decade ago now. So these guys are all fresh and they're out there to make their own name. And what you said there about Hatate, I would maybe say the same for Maeda. But a few of these guys will be looking at that as, this is where I go and get my transfer valuation. This is where I go and get my big money move onto the next part of my career. Because some of them, that's obviously, they're in their mid-20s and we're obviously just got Maeda on a contract. There's still rumours about the Hatate contract situation and everything as well. But that's the motivation they've got for playing here. We're in the group stages and, you know, even with the opposition, of course, but everyone is going to be supremely motivated to do their best for it. And one thing I was going to mention earlier, and this is probably the best way of pulling it in, but I've got like no fears, Zamora, about Joe Hart's performance. You know, hopefully he does well. Is maybe the only, like, if let's say Turnbull doesn't start, is maybe the only position you're worried we get exploited in left back.
Well, it looks like there's going to be a wee bit of a reshuffle at Feyenoord's end as well, you know, because usually you'd have Paxal and you would have Ivanisek on the other side, and then Minty's going to come in. He's clearly a talent, but he could be a guy who's, you know, a talent, but he could have an off game. But he looks quite quick. So, you know, from Greg Taylor's point of view, I don't think he's been one of our better performers this season so far. A wee bit of criticism, maybe the game's not suiting him, all that type of stuff. So, and no disrespect to him, but if you look at Greg Taylor and you look at a lot of the teams that are playing in the Champions League, he looks maybe a wee level below what you would regard to be a Champions League left back. Just to say, Michael Ross as well, I'm sitting near the camera. I do apologise for the echoing. We're just sorting out the room, the Larson picture, all that type of stuff. But you're not going to get any hair in my head to stop the vibrations, so it might have to be a weird. You just never know. But I was getting too comfy there. I was getting back in my chair, so I'll sit nearer the microphone. But I mean, I think left back's a kind of area that everybody highlighted that maybe we should have improved. Maybe we would have signed a left back if we didn't have all this injury crisis at centre half and everything. So we spent 4 or 5 million in Novrocky. We spent 3 million in Lagerbielke. We've still got CCV, who we sort of invested money in the season before, and all of a sudden we're having to go and do a sort of 6-month emergency type loan for Nat Phillips. So that would never have been in the plan. So maybe having to do stuff like that's kind of stopped the plan of bringing in a left back. And people say, why? Well, the squad's huge. I mean, you looked at the list of guys we left out the Champions League squad. We're having to leave out Novrocky, Bernaby, James McCarthy, that Premier League star that we signed on a 55-year contract. We were leaving. Bernaby's always on the matchday squad at home, and he's not even in the squad. So, you know, you can see why maybe Rodgers didn't want to just keep adding numbers, and he referred to that in press conference. Remember, you said it as well, but stopping the club bringing in certain players as well and try to work with a nice size of squad. And Arteta said at the weekend, he said, I want to have 2 good players in each position. So, you know, a lot of the top managers need rotated Raya and Ramsdale. And so why are you playing Raya? So because I want to have two top players in each position and everybody's got to get involved. So that's an area I think where we're light, because I think if Taylor's out, you wouldn't trust Bernaby in a Champions League game. He's not in the squad. And then you're moving Scales over there, who it's I think, did he play a lot of left back for Aberdeen last season? It was left centre half back as well. Or was it mostly left back he was playing for them? I can't remember. Didn't see a lot.
Robson came in, it was 3 at the back, but then the manager before it was a 4, and he kind of played a bit of both.
So he's played in between there. So I mean, I wouldn't be overly worried based on Scales' performances recently, but it's not having like a Kieran Tierney or whatever he was. We were playing Anderlecht away and Kieran Tierney roasted them away from home, and it's not really that level in terms of the sort of quality end of the spectrum, but we've got to deal with what we've got available, and then maybe by the next game, the good thing, you pointed this out as well, the calendar's not as congested, so we don't have a Champions League game next week, so that gives us time to play at the weekend, have a midweek off, and then maybe by the next one we'll be approaching having Vickers available. I don't know, sounds like he's kind of getting close as well, so try to get guys like this back would be good. And even I remember we looked back at the Champions League last season. I don't think we had any game until the game with Real Madrid away with Starfelt and Vickers together. So it's a tough test to not have your best backline or whatever together, And all right, we conceded too many goals, but we never had the full team out in a lot of those games as well, and kind of we paid for it, if that makes sense. So.
Agreed. And we've got another game in our group. I don't know if anyone really cares too much, but we'll have a wee glance at them. But Atletico Madrid are away to Lazio. Atletico Madrid have got some injury problems themselves. Just make sure I get on the right tab. But a pretty strong team. They've got two left wingers and a left back, and they can't work out which one to play. So they played one at the weekend, and they'll be playing one of the other two against Lazio. So it just doesn't
sound like hammered at the weekend. They not lose like 3 or 4-0 or something. No?
Valencia beat them 3-0, and then the midfield has got another injury. So Koke's out, Rodrigo De Paul's out, and Depay's still not back. So it's a bit of a makeshift Atleti. I wouldn't be surprised if Lazio got a good result here. This Lazio team doesn't look too glamorous, but this is full strength between these two playing midfield. But that's a strong Lazio team, and at home they're probably winning that game, I think.
The thing with Lazio last year, I think Provedel was the goalkeeper of the year in Italy, so I think he kept a lot of clean sheets. So Romagnoli and I don't think Casale played as much last season. I think he's a bit younger, but that was Luis Felipe, wasn't it? The guy who went to Saudi Arabia. I think it might even be the same team that his Jota went to that he's not playing for. Anyway, I mean, Lazio are a pretty good team, and I think Italian football is maybe a wee bit underrated as well, to be fair. People think of the EPL and think of the teams and the money it's spent and all that sort of stuff, but Lazio are a pretty good team. Guys like Luis Alberto is a lovely player. I think he played actually when we beat Lazio. Remember the game in Cham scored the goal? He was playing a game like that. Milinkovic, Savic, he left, didn't he? He went to Saudi as well. So they've lost a couple, but Daichi Kamada's he's a pretty good replacement to bring in that type of quality. So I think they have actually brought in some good guys like Kamada, Ravella, guys like that. So that's going to be interesting. But the one thing that's good about this group is you would hope that teams take points off each other as well, so we don't get a favourable result. Maybe there's a draw there or something, and you don't feel as if you're getting out of contention with the home game still to come. So we'll see. And also I sold Oblak as well, so start playing like
He-Man.
Superman. He'll be flying about the goals now after I get rid of him and Sorare. But there we go. But I mean, when you look at the teams who beat Parkhead before, you don't really look at any of these teams and think we're not capable of beating them. It's obviously going to be a tough ask, but I think we need to get 6-7 points at home, get back to that kind of target of aiming to get 9 points at home, and then it doesn't really matter if you don't get a lot of away results, because that puts you in contention to get through the top two, far less coming third. But let's see, one good result and your expectations can change a bit. Who would have thought that Scotland would have won every game in their group playing against Norway and Spain? So, let's go and have a go at it.
Aye, that's it, man. That's it. That's the attitude, McBride. That's it. That's what we're up for. And then, we'll have Tuesday night.
Beat us, come on.
That's it, man. You beat Dundee, you beat MD. We all know that. It's like the first thing they teach you when you start playing football, But we'll have the deadline for tomorrow. We'll have our teams locked and loaded. And we'll be going into a big midweek where should be good fun. And then we'll be rallying around right again, coming back to the league action.
Motherwell play the weekend? Is that away from home?
I've not even looked that far ahead, mate. Sorry, but
I know it's Motherwell or it's Livingston away. It's that daft pitch again. The only good thing is we've got Liverpool and Livingstone, and then we've got a free midweek. So I guess you can kind of you can go hell for leather and just concentrate in these games, and then you've got a wee bit of recovery time or whatever. I hate playing in those pitches. I mean, we're rotten against Kilmarnock in that pitch as well, but I'm not convinced Livingston are even as well organised as Kilmarnock. I think McInnes actually is doing a pretty good job there. They beat Rangers there as well. There's no flash in the pan thing. Beat Rangers, then beat us. So you got to start giving these guys some credit and saying, well, that's not just a complete flash in the pan. So
McInnes is a manager that can make a difference to a club. If you know what I mean, if a club hires McInnes in Scotland, he will move you up the table, regardless of your squad. I would say within reason, But no, I'm quite right on that Livingston one. But see, one thing I was thinking, and this maybe help us for getting our teams in for midweek a little bit, right? Is I was thinking into that Livingston game, and I was thinking, what's the odds that Burnaby plays that? What's the odds that maybe Home plays that? What's the odds that maybe one or two of these guys just start that game? Just go in and get the minutes.
Maybe even a game to give Boer start. It's people that have got Furuhashi, but Furu's been struggling with his shoulder as well, and it's kind of that awkward surface. If Vickers was there, then he never even started the game last season against Kilmarnock away. He just got left out randomly when he was playing all the games. Said it's not really good for his knees and all that type of stuff. So anyway, change the subject, Jay. What do you think the fact the board aren't allowing any tifos from the Green Brigade? I think they've kind of sent out a message there, and it's a difficult one because they don't want the club to get into trouble, and we've had a lot of different instances of things happening. But I think that maybe the message should be, well, you're allowed to do it, but can you avoid those certain things, because the tifo and the atmosphere and all that sort of stuff are all part of what the fans bring to the club. But I do think there's a wee bit sometimes of a kind of the Green Brigade are against the club in certain things, like they put out a thing about Rodgers when he signed, which we weren't all over the moon that Rodgers was coming back and the way he left, but you looked at that and you thought that's quite pointed. That's kind of like an attack on the appointment type thing. So yeah, I read that message. You actually sent it to me, so I did read that and I thought it was quite strong. But there we go. It's such is life when you come to health and safety and UEFA fines and all that sort of nonsense these days. People get booked for taking their tops off. So
yeah, well, that's that. That's disappointing. It's thoroughly disappointing. One of the things I think, and I've mentioned it before, but I hate the UEFA match directors. Obviously, they tell you when you can play the songs, they tell you when the team's coming out and all that kind of stuff. And they made us move Walk On, which I'm not a big fan of. We used to sing Walk On when they would come out the tunnel all the way through to kickoff. Yeah. Through the Champions League anthem, it'd be Walk On. You wouldn't hear anything for it. And but they changed it now. And this is another thing where
music.
Yeah. So they play Walk On now 5 minutes before they even come out the tunnel. So we finish Walk On and they're out the tunnel now because they started it much earlier. Whereas we used to start it a minute before the tunnel, and it would carry you through to the game. So yeah, I don't like further controls or further restrictions in that sense. In that kind of vein, especially when it is that's when you're selling the club to the world, as the Champions League, at home with the disco lights on and everything else. 60,000 Tims there in green and white, sending all their energy onto the pitch to get the boys over the line. Yeah. And man, if some of them are a wee bit divisive, listen, overall, football's football, and I don't really like it when the lines blur personally between football and, let's just call it, reality. Football's my escape from a lot of this stuff personally. But you've got to use, if you've got the power to help, then I think it's definitely in the club's DNA to promote messages of that nature, certainly, and I'm not too sure there's been too much. It's been too far from that sentiment.
Yeah, I think the other thing I would say as well is that I know I'm showing my age now, but I remember going to games when they didn't have the Green Brigade, and they bring a brilliant atmosphere to Parkhead as well. Like an amazing atmosphere. They're always up for it. They're always starting some sort of song that's coming for the corner. They're always doing that. There's jumping about, and it's just that it's an atmosphere, and it can become infectious for the rest of the fans rather than everybody sitting becoming. They used to call it the Man United Prawn Sandwich Brigade and all that sort of stuff as well. So yeah, I want to see an atmosphere, and I want to see everybody getting up for it. So I don't want to see certain fans saying that the club might be wrong to say that, but I do think you're kind of on the money there in terms of what's happening with the Champions League and UEFA and all that sort of stuff. The other thing is nothing to do with Celtic. I remember last season there was an Arsenal game on, and they had to put it on a Wednesday night, and I was like, that's great. I would quite like to watch Arsenal. There's no Champions League games I want to watch, and they couldn't show it on any channels because they had put a block on showing any live games when the Champions League was on. So you this crazy situation where Arsenal are in the running to basically win the EPL, and they're great. I love watching Arsenal last season. You couldn't get the game anywhere; it just wasn't on, and that was because there was a sort of veto on showing other games in all the other countries because Champions League was on. So that shows you the levels that they go to stop things happening. They're actually even saying you're not allowed to put another game on the TV in the UK and when the Champions League run and stuff like that. So that's another bonkers example. But yeah, I mean, let's look at the positives. I mean, when we do get the Champions League game at Parkhead, it's one of those night games. Everybody wants to go for maybe a couple of drinks, some eat before it. The atmosphere in Parkhead sometimes is unsurpassed, I think. I mean, some of the best nights ever have been atmospheres at Parkhead in a European game. It's just that so you want everybody coming. You don't want the Green Brigade coming up for it. You want 60,000 there, everybody been up for it, and making it really intimidating and getting behind the team and all that sort of stuff. And hopefully the team can back that up and raise their level, because that I'm sure that raises the team's level when they start playing games like that. Definitely.
Yeah, 100%. Because this is what it's all about. This is the pinnacle. This is as high as it gets. So I'm with you on all that. As I've just been going through it to see if there's any kind of latest and greatest to touch on as we get towards the end. This is a great little post here from Everything Celtic. Celtic have announced record-breaking profits of 40.7 million before tax for year ending 30th of June 2023, not including the sales of Vickers, of Carl Starfelt, I beg your pardon, and Jota. So that's pretty tasty. I suppose that won't include Champions League money because we can't be paid for it, because no one pays you for Champions League money in June, do they? They'll be paid that probably in January or something when the group stages are completed. Yeah. So that's good.
We were guaranteed to enter, but yeah, I agree with you, because you don't even know how much you're going to get in terms of the pots until you know what other teams are in and all that sort of stuff. What I would say is, and I know that people, and we've even criticised the board for buying guys in terms of what we would regard as projects, but they've announced a big project and they're going to spend like 20 million or something on Barrowfield and make it into a sort of world-class complex, and that I like. I think we are a top-class club. If you walk up to Parkhead now, you walk up the Celtic way, it looks absolutely brilliant. So as long as the money is actually being invested in the club and then bringing those facilities that will take us forward when we're all dead, Quinny, we'll be dead. I'll have drank so much Guinness that I've decomposed.
We'll just be a brick on the floor.
Aye. Well, I've got a brick at Parkhead actually, so I'll still be there. But aye, I mean, if we're investing the money in the club, I like to see that. I know Sean mentioned that before as well, but if we're not going to spend it just on players and stuff, we're going to spend it on the facilities, because people think, what difference the facilities going to make? But the sports science that goes behind things, the training, the recovery, the quality of players you can actually attract to the club when you bring them in and say, this is where you're going to train, this is how we coach you, and this is where you're going to play. You want to bring the full package, and if you want to be a Champions League club, then you've got to have everything at the highest level. You even see Man United fans complaining because Ronaldo said that they've not improved the training facilities, and they're all complaining about the owners saying, "Oh, we've spent loads of money on the pitch, but we don't have a really good training centre," whatever they're not happy with. So, if we're spending money in the club and moving it forward, then I think that's good.
100%, and that's definitely why you lose guys like Ben Doak and who was our guy who went to Bayern Munich? Was it Morrison and whatever? Because when they go to these clubs, it's like Ivy League, American university level, campus level stuff. They've got like 4 personal trainers that follow them around, and they know their body fat. They know every molecule of everything that's in them. And, it maximizes every player's physical capabilities. And we are not able to do that, which is why young up-and-coming prospects, as soon as they get that tour around another training facility and they go, wow, this thing exists. These places are real kind of thing. We are hemorrhaging talent to that. So just by upgrading that, we'll probably retain a lot more of, let's just call it, that natural resource we've got, as up-and-coming Celtic fans that want to play for us.
If you look at Ben Doak,
to go down south.
We're clearly actually developing, we're bringing through good players. Like, the Scottish national team is really good at the moment. There's no doubt about it. And we're developing guys that are going and playing in Italy. And, we've got a guy like Ben Doak. I think he might actually get some sort of start for Liverpool against Lask in the it's the Europa League they're in. It's kind of Europa League. So, talk of rotation and, at the very least, he'll maybe get some minutes coming on for Mo Salah or whatever. That's a guy who, kind of slipped through the net. But as you say, that there might be reasons behind that. It might just have been more impressed by the setup down there, or maybe just his head turned or whatever, But
there's also money involved in these things as well. But like we see other clubs around Europe that are able to retain their own prodigies, because they can see that I've got all the best of kit here anyway. I'm next to my roots. I can grow here.
Yeah.
The club have done this before. They know what they're doing. They can produce players that get to that level that I want to get to. So I think this is a good step towards that. I put a wee tweet out when I seen the thing for it as well, saying, I want this to be called the Lions Den. We want Lisbon Lions coming out of here again. We want homegrown, world-class like talent coming out of this place now. So it's nice to see. It'll be a long time before it bears any fruits, sadly. Or you would think anyway. Maybe not. Like I say, that whole retention factor might kick in quite quickly. On top of some other work that's been done in the last 10 years in Scottish football in general. But yeah, good stuff is happening.
Never ceases to actually amaze me as well is that if you look at Ajax, right? So Ajax sold Arsenal for 45 million, and they spent like 20 million in Satalo, and they bought Avila, and they bought Borna Souza. And go and look at the guy, Jorel Hato, and look at his scores in Sorare. So the line-up, this guy comes in, I've never heard of him in my life. He's 17, and he walks into the team, and his scores are absolutely brilliant. But the thing is, Ajax have an absolute conveyor belt of people coming through the academy that are good players. So what we're going to say about that, we're going to say, well, the Dutch are just better at football than Scotland. Or actually, is it because they have the academies and the scouting set up and everything there, and the coaches who know how to develop young players? Because as soon as they hit 17 or 18, there's at least 2, 3 or 4 of them that seem to be capable of playing in the team. Whereas we have guys who I think kind of there or thereabouts, but they're no Ajax level. Ajax are top level. Vata's doing very well for Ireland under 21s, so he's a guy I would like to see a bit more of. And I know we'll probably have 1 or 2 more there. Ben Summers went on to Dunfermline. But when you see some of these academies, these renowned academies abroad, and even like say Dynamo Zagreb or whatever, they just produce good players all the time. So you need to kind of look at that and see, is it just because these other people are inherently better at football than us, or is it just because of how they've been developed from when they're 10, 11 and they're part of that sports science and all right, we're not playing competitive football just now. We're not playing my goalkeeper. We're going to play, and it's all focus on pass and move. And they must be doing something differently, because we're all standing inside the pitch here shouting that somebody else is an asshole and get it punted up, though. And we're getting the back of players and everything. Whereas they're bringing through guys who they're selling for 40 and 50 million to other leagues. So we're back to the same point, but spending some money on the club for that point of view, I think is a really good step forward. So there we go.
Big time. McBride, I'm going to say Celtic 3, Feyenoord 2.
Aye,
What you say?
that's quite optimistic. I think it'll be a few goals, so I don't think you're far off. I'll go for a 2-2. I don't think we will win. I don't think we will win, but I'd like to see us go and show that people think that Scottish football's rubbish and all that type of stuff. And Celtic Rangers have not been very good in Europe for over the last season, but I'd like to see us go and show that we're a serious football team. So 2-2, if we get a result, absolutely magic. But I'd like to see us do a bit better and give them a right good game.
Well, to Jay and anyone else that is travelling out to Rotterdam, travel safe, have fun, represent the hoops. I want to hear you screaming through the camera every time we score. And McBride's been an absolute pleasure. Hail, hail to you as well, guys. And we'll see you next week.
Hail, hail. Make sure you all come home as well.
One hoops.